The uniforms were sharp, the commands were loud, the flags promised order. But behind closed doors, away from parades and propaganda reels, a darker war was being fought on women's bodies. This is one of the hardest truths of World War II. And, well, it's one history tried to whisper instead of confront. Welcome to 0 Hour World War II. Let's get straight into it. Captivity was the weapon. Female captives under Nazi command were not just prisoners. They were deliberately stripped of identity, protection, and choice. From the moment women were captured, whether in occupied towns, resistance sweeps, ghettos or camps, they were placed in a system designed to break them fast and keep them silent. Nazi ideology viewed women through a brutal hierarchy. Some were labelled racially undesirable and treated as disposable. Others were seen as resources to be exploited. None were seen as human equals. That mindset shaped everything that followed. This wasn't chaos. It was policy wrapped in cruelty. Sexual violence was systemic, not accidental. One of the most uncomfortable facts of World War II is this. Sexual abuse of female captives was widespread and tolerated. Sometimes it was unofficial and unpunished. Sometimes it was quietly organized. Women in camps, prisons and occupied zones faced constant threat from officers and guards who knew they would never be held accountable. Abuse took many forms: coercion, threats, forced compliance in exchange for food, protection or survival. Refusal often meant beatings, transfer to harsher camps or death. This was not about desire. It was about power, absolute power. In several camps, women were forced into controlled sexual exploitation systems, including brothels created for soldiers. These were not choices. They were survival calculations made under terror. Many of these women were later erased from records entirely, as if their suffering didn't fit the heroic war narrative. The trauma didn't end when the doors closed behind them. It followed them for life. Some were subjected to forced medical procedures. Others were separated from their newborns, who, sadly, rarely survived. There was no justice, no investigation, no sympathy. Medical experiments on women. Female captives were also targeted for medical experimentation. Nazi doctors used women to test sterilization methods, disease progression, and reproductive control. These experiments were conducted without consent, anesthesia, or, any concern for survival. And yet, even in hell, resistance existed. Some women sabotaged work assignments, others passed messages, hid supplies, or protected fellow prisoners. Survival itself became an act of defiance, holding on to dignity, remembering names, sharing food, teaching songs quietly at night. When World War II ended, the suffering did not simply switch off. Many female survivors returned to societies that didn't want to hear what happened. War crimes trials focused on military strategy and genocide statistics. Sexual violence was pushed to the margins. Testimonies were shortened. Details were avoided. Justice was partial at best. For decades, these women lived with memories the world refused to acknowledge. Only much later did historians begin to openly document the scale of what occurred. This is not just history. It's a warning. What happened to female captives under Nazi command shows how fast humanity collapses when ideology removes empathy and power goes unchecked. It reminds us that war crimes are not only fought on battlefields, they happen in silence, in locked rooms, in ignored testimonies. Remembering this isn't about guilt, it's about truth. At 0 Hour World War II, we don't chase comfortable stories. We chase real ones. Because understanding the darkest chapters of World War II helps ensure they're never repeated. If this story added value, if it made you pause, think, or see history differently, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Share this video. Keep these voices alive. History only stays buried when we stop digging.